Wealth is your birthright. You are supposed to have money. Poverty is not natural. You have a desire on your heart right now because that is your life's purpose. Money was only invented about 5,000 years ago. It is a man-made concept that we intellectually have placed value on. Money is paper. It's printed paper. And we are saying there is not enough. Where does paper come from? Trees. Do you see a lack of trees around you? I don't. It's just an illusion. This society's standard, this expectation that we have to go to school, work a 9 to 5, go there for the rest of your life, and then retire on a pension, that is an illusion. That was strategically placed there so that you can follow a timeline where you are a slave, where you are doing whatever anybody else wants you to do because you can make other people money. It was put there so you never realize that you have desires. So you are so burnt out and tired from exhausting yourself day in, day out, clocking in, clocking out, that you don't even have time. You don't have time to sit with yourself. You don't have time to discover your creativity. You don't have time to discover your passions because you're programmed. Because now you're conditioned to believe that this timeline that I just laid out is what you need to follow. And society says, if you don't follow this timeline, you will be unsuccessful. You will be broke. You will not have enough. You will not belong. And that is humanity's greatest fear, of not belonging. So we accept this truth. Even if it is detrimental to our own spirit, even if it is literally breaking us and tormenting us, sucking the very life force energy out of us, we continue to do it. Because either we don't see a way out or we want to belong. We want mom and dad to accept us. We want society to accept us. We want our friends and family to accept us. And if we don't do this, they won't. And that is our greatest fear. Or we just don't know any other way. We don't know that we were programmed. We don't know that there is another way out. I'm telling you guys, there is such a greater life outside of the 9 to 5 culture. Anything that you can imagine, anything that you have been wanting to do, you can do. Think about it. If you had a certain desire on your heart, let's say you've been wanting to pursue music or art, or you've been wanting to get up on stages and tell your story, just literally anything that is creative, anything that you have a burning desire and a passion for, why would it be there if it wasn't meant for you to express it? Just seriously, sit with me and think about that for a second. Because that makes no fucking sense. It makes no sense. A lot of these things that are in society right now are there for you to never realize that. Never realize that your heart is the gateway to God. And so if you have a passion for something, you are not only expressing your divine gifts and talents that were given to you from God, you are suppressing God itself because God is in the heart. When you express the desires of your heart, when you follow your passions, when you express your creativity, that is God moving through you. That is source energy moving through you. And if God is within you, and if the desires on your heart are from God, why wouldn't you have the resources to do it? Why wouldn't you be supported? But instead, a lot of people want to be supported by their friends, their family, the people that are currently in their lives. But wouldn't you much rather be supported by God? Wouldn't you rather be supported financially by the universe? Wouldn't you much rather be supported by yourself? And then through that, you would attract more people that are also following their purpose, also in tune with themselves and their creativity. We are so afraid to let these people go. The people that we've grown up with, the people that we've known for so long, the people who are doing the same exact thing. We are afraid to leave them because we don't know what's out there. Ego tells us this is bad. You shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't go out of society standards. People will tell you that you're crazy. I went on the Dr. Phil show talking about this exact same thing. I was telling people who were in corporate America that you don't have to work hard for money. And you know what? They laughed. They laughed. They said, you are absolutely nuts. You're going to be homeless. And I said, well, I was homeless before I came on here. And I decided to quit my job. I decided to pursue my passions of public speaking, social media, expressing my story, expressing my gifts. And I've made so much more money than I would have ever made working a 9-to-5. And after I got off that show, I got my own apartment and I got my own car without a 9-to-5. Because it's so crazy to me. I mean, that is what you can expect when you decide to just stop following everybody else for once and finally do what you want to do. Expect to not fit in. I still talk to people sometimes that I've known for a while, and they're still doing the same exact thing they were doing years ago. They're still the same exact person. And I'm about to show you exactly how you were programmed, exactly how you were tricked into poverty, tricked into thinking that you need to follow a certain timeline, tricked into thinking that there is lack and limitation and scarcity in this world, because it is only in your mind. It does not exist. Poverty is an illusion. Scarcity is an illusion. This world is abundant. Okay, I hope you can see this, but this is a diagram I created for exactly how you were programmed. We're gonna go throughout certain stages of life, and I'm going to show you how the influences that you grew up with are dictating your life right now. I'm about to show you how you were tricked into thinking that there is lack and scarcity. And then at the end, I'm going to show you what it would look like if you were programmed differently. And then I'm going to give you tips on how to reprogram your own mind so that you can receive the abundance that you deserve, so you can stop struggling, so you can stop doing this hard work thinking that it's going to make you money, so you can stop following what everybody's doing. You can find your passions, you can find your creativity, and you can finally start expressing what you were meant to do, what you came here to do, okay? Okay, so get out a pen and a paper because I want you to write all of this down. You have hold on, let me get my pen because we are for real. You have a conscious and a subconscious mind. This is fact. Your subconscious and your subconscious are part of the same mind. It's not your brain, it is your mind. So your conscious mind is responsible for your thinking, your 5 senses. You analyze things through your subconscious mind. You're taking in information from your environment, from people, and you're also making rational decisions with your conscious mind. So this is something that we use on a day-to-day basis. Your subconscious mind is responsible for your long-term memory, and it also controls your bodily functions, so your breathing and your heart. These are things that you don't have to think about because it's an automatic process. Your subconscious already knows how to breathe, it knows how to keep your heart pumping, so you don't even have to think twice about it. And then it also holds all of your emotions, your past experiences, and your trauma. This makes up 95% of your mind. Hold on, let me write that down so you can really see the difference. This makes up 95%, and this is not conscious. This is not something that you are aware of. And your conscious mind makes up 5% of your mind. You are only using 5% of your mind. Everything else is automatic. Everything else is from what you have learned when you were younger. This is all your programming. People say that the conscious mind is the master and the subconscious mind is the servant. So this means whatever you accept in here, whatever you're taking in, whatever you are learning, it goes into here. And your subconscious mind is like, okay, this is true, we accept this. Your subconscious mind is not biased towards what you accept. It takes in all information on a repetitive basis. So anything that you were taught over a long period of time, it says, okay, this is what we believe. This is what we know. Goes in your subconscious mind and it stays there. And this is what is controlling your reality. And I'm going to show you exactly how. From the time you were born up until age 7, this is your learning. You are using your subconscious mind to make up beliefs, self-worth, your relationships, your emotions, and your behavior from your parents and your environment. When you were a kid, you were using your subconscious mind the most because you need to learn information, you need to take in things, you need to form beliefs, and your self-worth is determined from what your parents taught you. Your self-worth is determined from the relationships that your parents had. You're just like a sponge. You're just taking in all of these things and you're seeing, how do I respond in the environment? How are my parents? What do I need to do to keep myself safe? And so let's say from the time you were born up until age 7, your parents were toxic. Your parents told you that money was scarce. You felt the energy of them struggling because when we're kids, although from the ages like 0 to 2 or 3, we can't like make out words, we're still absorbing the energy. So regardless of the words that you couldn't comprehend, you were still taking in the energy of your parents. So if your parents were constantly stressed out, they were arguing, they were toxic, it was just not a good environment to grow up in, you're still absorbing that. You're still taking that in, even if you can't consciously and rationally process what you're going through. And so you make up beliefs about your self-worth and your relationships through what you were learning from your parents. And they said that money is not enough. You need to go work hard. You saw them, maybe they weren't there all the time. Maybe they were not as loving and nurturing as they needed to be. So this stunted your self-worth and your relationships, and it affected your emotions because as children, we need our parents. They need to give us what we deserve in order to survive. We need them to hug us, to hold us, to tell us that we are loved. We need them to show us how to live. We need our parents. And when they aren't there, that affects everything. So when they aren't there, when you're from ages 0 to 7, you feel abandoned. You feel like there is not enough. You feel and start to behave in a way that is expressing that you don't have your needs met. You maybe start to unconsciously believe that you are not worthy of your needs being met. And so your parents were really toxic and they were teaching you all of these things. They were saying that you need to go work a job. Well, not, directly to you, but they were saying to each other how they need to work very hard and they're always gone all the time because they're constantly working. And then they don't have any time to play with you. They don't have any time to nurture you and give you the love that you deserve because they're worried about money. Maybe you guys grew up homeless. You didn't have a stable household. And so now you're believing that this is the way of life from ages 0 to 7. This is how you operate. You're taking all of that in. And so now you're from ages 7 to 14. And this is where you start modeling the behavior that you learned from the time you were born up until age 7. So in this process, you already get a good idea of what you're learning. You understand who your parents are and how they act. And if they are very toxic and maybe they fight all the time and they're doing all this, that, and the third, then this is what you are going to take in, and you're going to start to form behaviors, emotions, relationships, beliefs about your self-worth and about the world through this. And so now you're going to start repeating that. This is why when kids go to school and they start repeating things or doing bad behavior, it is because they are learning it at home. They are acting out the behavior that they are taught. And so this is when you start to mimic everything and anything. And so when you learn that there's not enough, you're going to start to mimic that behavior. This is going to look like saying things like, maybe we can't afford that, or I can't have that, or you ask your parents for something and they say, no, we can't afford that. I don't have McDonald's money. Money is the root of all evil. And so then you start repeating that to yourself and you start mimicking that behavior to the point where you are embodying what your parents are embodying. So when you embody lack, when you embody that there is not enough, that starts to actually physically be present in your body. You start to hunch over, you start to squeeze your muscles really tight. Like if your parents are people who yell, you might like have trouble relaxing your face muscles because you're scrunching it up all the time. So this is what you're constantly doing. Your parents are yelling at you, you're constantly like scrunching up, and your body is really tense because you're doing anything and everything that you can to survive, and you are mimicking what you are learning. This is also when we have trauma. So now we are able to go about in the world and we're able to understand certain experiences that we're having. We're able to, although our subconscious mind is still practicing things to form these as solid beliefs, we are still consciously taking in and rationalizing everything that we're learning. And so when you have certain traumas, that is being absorbed in your subconscious mind. And if you don't have parents that are able to help you work through that, then it's going to stay there. It's going to stay stuck in there. And if you are in a family that doesn't have enough, you guys are poor, you guys didn't grow up with enough, then this is the behavior that you start to mimic. This is the perception that you start to see in the world. You start to say, I don't deserve money, or you start to think that you can't have enough. You start to think that this is not available for you, and that, you get what I'm saying. Your perceptions are formed through here. And now you have even more influences. So now from ages 7 to 14, you have more family members that you're around. You have teachers, you have peers, you have the media, and you have the community. And the way that our society is structured right now, the community that we have is predominantly reinforcing lack. So this is very strong conditioning. When you are growing up, you go to school and they teach you to be a good little worker. They teach you that you need to go work a job. They honestly teach you a whole bunch of bullshit in school. Like everything that I learned in my middle school, elementary, high school years, I don't remember none of it. Like barely anything except the essentials of learning how to speak and write. But beyond that, I don't remember anything. I couldn't tell you the pi formula if you asked me. I couldn't tell you any math. It just goes in through one ear and out the other because it's just a whole bunch of BS. But now you're being exposed to the media and different communities, and so there are so many people that are reinforcing the belief that there is not enough. So you may want things and think that you have to like steal them to get it. Like if you grew up in a poverty mindset, because I know I did, like when I was younger and my parents would tell me that we didn't have enough and that we were poor and we couldn't afford things, I would just go to the mall and steal. Like I would just go to the mall with my friends and I would be like stealing things and I'd be like, whatever, we didn't have enough money. Or whenever I would go and ask my dad for like things that I needed, he would be like, oh, well, you have to work hard for that, or like, oh, you have to work that off. Like I remember I wanted to get braces and these were things that I actually freaking needed. I needed braces, and my dad was like, oh, well, now you have to do the dishes and now you have to do this, like you have to earn that, you have to earn your braces. And I was like, what? So now I was being taught that I needed to work hard for something if I really wanted, even if I needed it, I need to work hard for it because I don't get to have it just because I need it or just because I feel like I deserve it. So those are some examples of like the things that you start mimicking and the behaviors that you start modeling from the conditioning when you were younger. So I want you to go back to your childhood as early as you can remember and try to think about what your parents were like. What were they teaching you? What is the environment that you grew up in? Were your parents telling you that there is not enough money? Did you see them struggling all the time? Were you guys poor? Were you middle class? Did you not have enough? What was the language around money in your household? Did they tell you that we don't have McDonald's money? Did they say money is the root of all evil? Did they say we don't have enough? Like, just go back and identify what your programming was, because this is the foundation of which your life is built from. Most of us do not ever come out of the conditioning when we were kids. And you have to understand, as a kid, you were so creative. Even if you think you have not one creative bone in your body, I'm telling you, you do. Because as kids, we were all creative. We all had imagination. Like, just go and look at a kid. And this is why I have so much to say about this. And this is why I do not believe that we should be giving kids technology so early, because then the conditioning starts really early, and we are conditioning these kids to not use their imagination anymore, to not go outside and play. Like when I was a kid, we would be going outside playing dodgeball, like we would just be having fun. And I also remember that I was extremely creative. I would love to write. I was a writer, I was a bookworm. I would always have my head in a book. And I remember that in 5th grade I had like the reading level of a high schooler, and I would write all of these creative stories and these poems. But my parents told me that this was something that I was gonna have to struggle for. They told me that artists or people who write, authors, don't make a lot of money. And so that stifled my creativity. I guarantee you, when you were a kid, you had some sort of creative potential. You had something within you that you wanted to express. And when you did, the adults around you shut you down. And so you were made to believe that you couldn't do this thing, or that this thing wasn't possible. But before, it was totally possible. When you're a kid, you're just trying things out. That's why babies go through like 5 emotions in a couple minutes, because they're just expressing themselves. They're just allowing themselves to be. And just like how we use the phrase, a kid in a candy store. A kid goes into a candy store and wants everything. Why? Because they're not worried about bills. They're not worried about how much money it costs. They just know that they want it. And there's nothing preventing them from having it. They'll just go and get it, like, and then of course it doesn't work like that in society, but I'm just saying, like, if we as adults still carried our inner child with us, if we learned how to heal and reprogram our minds and actually harness our inner child, there would be no limitations. We would go back to that childlike state. And it's not a bad thing, because I know also, when I was younger, my parents used to say, when you're a kid, like, oh, stay a kid as long as you can, because when you grow up, things are going to get hard, and, you're going to have to pay bills, and, oh, I wish I was a kid, like, you don't have to worry about nothing. This is also contributing to the programming. So when they tell you all of these things, you start to be afraid of adulthood. You start to be like, oh my gosh, like, I have to do all these things. I'm going to have to be so responsible and pay bills. I'm going to have to do this, that, and the third. But you don't really have to. The journey of self-healing and self-discovery is all about coming back home to your inner child. Your inner child holds the key to your success, because your inner child is the free version of you, the version of you that knew all of the possibilities, that nothing was off limits for you. Your inner child right now is rooting you on. Your inner child wants you to come back to them and be like, hey, your inner child's literally like, hey, I'm here. Every time you have a negative emotion, every time you feel scared or frightened, that's your inner child saying, hey, something happened to us when we were younger, and I want you to heal this. I want you to help me work through this. And a lot of times our self-worth is so low from the programming that we received when we were younger. We beat ourselves up for not being perfect. We beat ourselves up for having or not having certain things. We beat ourselves up for not fitting into the mold that society has set for us. But as kids, we don't give a fuck about all that. We don't care. We are just free to be. And so this is really the key here. Like, this, from the time you were born to age 14, this is your subconscious programming. So like I said before, your subconscious stores all of this from your past, from your experiences, all your trauma, all your emotions, and your subconscious speaks in the energy of language. So once you start to be told something enough and you start to repetitively do this, that becomes an automatic process to your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind says, oh, this is what we are supposed to believe. And so that is what projects out to your reality. So then you start attracting experiences that resonate with that frequency, because we are energy beings. Everything around us is energy. So when we are in the energy of lack, our parents are in the energy of lack, we are attracting more lack to us. And so that's why when you start mimicking this behavior that you're learning from all of these influences, you're going to start attracting things that resonate at the same frequency or the same energy of what you are projecting out. Your thoughts are signals. Your parents are sending you energy. They're saying, this is not enough. You are not enough. All of this trauma and experiences that you have had, that determines your self-worth. You form an identity around it because nobody was there to tell you, oh, like the things that you are not the things that you experience. They're not here to help you work through it. I know I didn't have any help when I was going through a lot of trauma. I was in CPS when I was at the age of 12. I was dating a lot of older men at an age that I shouldn't have been. And there was no one there to help me or guide me through that or tell me that it was a result of my traumatic experiences growing up. Nobody told me that I wasn't my thoughts or I wasn't a bad person. That's the belief that I formed, was I wasn't a bad person, or that I was a bad person, because from the time I was born to age 7, I was neglected emotionally. Like, my parents pretty much abandoned me. They only cared about each other because my mom was a kid. She had me when she was 14. My dad was in his early 20s. This was a toxic ass environment that I grew up in. And so I had already formed beliefs. I've learned from my parents. And I also grew up with, you know, them being and working all the time and us not having enough, and them like fixing noodles and not having enough food in the refrigerator, and all of these things that I just remember absorbing at these ages. This is what I have learned. My relationships were toxic, and they were with men because my parents were not there, so I didn't get my needs met. And so I went out looking for relationships that resembled my parents, but the relationships that I were attracting was a result of the trauma from when I was younger. And so the emotions that I had were primarily fear. Lack is fear. Your parents were most likely afraid, and they were giving that fear to you. And so I was afraid all of the time. I was sad. I was depressed. You know, I didn't have a word for it, but this is what it was. And the behavior that I started putting out was, you know, desperate. I was desperate for love. I was desperate for attention. I started acting out. I started doing things that I wasn't supposed to. And this is a result for all the conditioning. So I hope this is making sense. I want to give you examples from my personal life because I want you guys to know that I want it to make sense, and I want you guys to know that I have transformed my life, and you can reprogram your own mind. You can actually begin to express yourself in the way that you were always meant to. And so from ages 7 to 14, this is when I started mimicking the behavior that I've learned. I had very low self-worth because my parents weren't there to teach me how to love myself. My mom did not love herself. And so, again, this is when I attracted all of this stuff. I was repeating the behavior that I learned when I was younger. And then moving on to 14 to 21, this is the I am. So everything that you've learned from here, all of the lack, all of the scarcity, the trauma, the experiences, your friends, your family, your community, all of these things are now in your subconscious. So you now have beliefs, you now have stories that you tell yourself based on what you learned. You have all of these things that are lodged into your subconscious. And so you start forming a personality around that. You now say, I am. This is who I am. And this is when you start making conscious decisions based off of this. A lot of times as adults, we are not making decisions based on like our own. They're not our own decisions. We are making decisions based off of what we learned as a child. So if you were taught that there's not enough, you were taught that you need to follow this timeline of going to school, getting a job, all this, that, and the third, this is what you are going to be making decisions based off of. So you're going to make the decision to go to college because you were told to. You're going to make the decision to pursue a career in something you don't want to do because you were told that you had to. A lot of times we become the same exact picture perfect representation of our parents because we never come out of this conditioning. And a lot of times we don't even see the conditioning that's going on. And so we start to not make enough money. We start to not being able to afford our bills. A lot of us sometimes end up in the same homeless situations that we were learning when we were younger, because there's nothing outside of us that's teaching us any different. And so now you have all of these friends, you have societal expectations, you have cultural traits and trends, you have your experiences, and this is what you say you are. This is the identity that you form as a result of learning the behavior and mimicking the behavior. That is how you reprogram your mind. You start to identify what you learned when you were younger, from the time you were born to age 7. Sometimes you don't remember, that's okay. And you learned like what you start modeling, what you were repeating when you were younger. And then you start looking at who you think you are. What is your identity? What is the story that you are telling yourself? Who do you think you are? Because I can tell you that, well, I had to grow up really fast. So I was 16 and I thought I had everything figured out. I thought I was just gonna work really hard. I was busting my ass at Walgreens. I used to work at Walgreens. They was working me to the bone. I was working 8+ hours, over 45 hours per week. And I thought that that was my life. I said, although deep down, I knew that I did not want to do this shit. I was absolutely miserable. I would clock in and clock out every single day because that is what I was told I had to do. And that was reinforced through my friends and through my family. No one was telling me to go pursue my dreams. No one was telling me that money was not scarce. I was actually grown up into a family where money was not available to me, and I thought that I had to work hard for it. I did a lot of things, anything that I could do to make money. I would have done just about anything. And I would go to these guys, these older men that I was dating, and I would expect them to provide for me because my parents didn't provide for me. And so I was looking to these older men as a parental figure, even though at the time I thought I was in a relationship. I thought they loved me. The whole time I was trying to get my needs met from back when I was a kid. I was still trying to find my mom and my dad. I was still trying to have the parent there. And so I expected, like, I had my whole life mapped up. When I was 16, I thought that I was just going to work really hard and I was going to find a man, or I was going to be with the man that I was with, which was a pedophile, because when we were talking, I was 16 and he was damn near in his 20s, or he was in his 20s. And so I thought that I was gonna move in with him and I would just have to do whatever he says because he would provide for me and we would have kids, even though I did not want a kid. But I thought that's what I had to do because I want to survive and because that was the life that my parents lived. And so do you see now how your personality forms from your experiences? So just to give you like a real life personal example, like I said, when I was younger, my parents abandoned me emotionally. So my self-worth was really low. I had relationships in my life that were not good. Even when I was younger, like the parents that I had were not good relationship. I didn't have a good relationship with them. I didn't really have a good relationship with any other family. And so the emotions that I experienced all the time were just like fear because I was afraid of my parents. I was afraid of retaliation from my mom because she had like extreme jealousy towards me. I feel like she thought that I took her life away. And so I had all this trauma that I had to go through. And so through ages 7 to 14, I started mimicking this behavior. I started thinking that there was not enough because we also did grow up. We weren't like dirt poor, but we didn't have enough. Like my parents followed the same timeline. They told me that I need to go to school, get a good job, do all this, that, and third. And so I started mimicking that behavior by wanting to get a job and by going and seeing these older men and just acting outwardly because I had so much trauma. And so from 14 to 21, like I said, when I was 16, I formed this identity. Oh, I need to do this. I need men. I need to make money. I don't have enough. All of the same things that my parents told me was what my personality was. This was my subconscious programming. That is how you're programmed. When you were taught lack, that is all you see, because that is the reality that you were taught that exists. But there is a whole new reality out there. There is a reality where you can be wealthy, where you can be abundant. You don't have to struggle anymore. You don't have to define yourself by your past experiences. So I want to take you through the model one more time, but I want to show you what it would look like if you were taught differently, if you had a different programming. And I don't want you to think, oh, well, I needed to have had a different programming in order for me to experience a different life. That is not true, because you can reprogram your subconscious mind, which I'll get into after I explain this to you. So let's say from the time you were born until the age 7, you had a healthy family dynamic. There were some ups and downs, but overall, it was healthy. Your parents were really wealthy. They were making a lot of money. They told you that you don't have to work hard for money. They didn't feed you the societal expectation of going and working a job or going to college, going to school. They put you in school, but they also told you that you could do whatever you wanted. They encouraged you. They uplifted you. They had a good relationship with you. They told you that they loved you. Your parents wanted to be together. Your parents loved each other so much. You were so close with your parents, and they loved you dearly. And so the predominant emotions that are in your household are happy, you're very healthy, you feel secure, you don't feel any fear. And when you do feel fear, your parents teach you how to work through that. They teach you about life. They teach you about the world. They say that, you can be an artist, you can, they just encourage your imagination. When you're expressing your creativity, they actually encourage that, and they want you to do better. So you had a really good upbringing, and the behavior that was modeled to you was secure, and they were just really good influences. And so from the age of 7 to 14, this is when you start mimicking that. So now you're not really concerned about having enough. You can just go about and express yourself. And so when you're 14 or 17 to 14, you have good family members, you have teachers, peers, media, and community that are all uplifting. They are positive because this is what you learned. And your parents also have surrounded themselves with people and media and community that is equally as encouraging and uplifting. So you start doing things that you want to do. Maybe you start getting into art, or you don't have to worry about not having enough. Anything that you want, your parents provide to you, which is normal. Because I see a lot of people who grew up in lack or poverty, or who have a lack mindset, saying, your parents just handed everything to you, or they just gave you everything, and they want to make people whose parents supported for them feel bad for their parents supporting them, because your parents are supposed to give you everything when you're in these ages. They're supposed to give you things that you need. They're supposed to give you even things that you want, because they're teaching their children that they deserve it. And so they're just modeling the behavior of abundance. They're modeling the behavior of love. They are having close relationships with people around them. These are the people that form long-lasting relationships that, like they have friends from kindergarten, and they're still friends years later because they formed healthy relationships with people. And also, I'm not saying any of this to put people down who grew up in a lack or poverty mindset. I grew up the same way. I'm just saying there are people who are taught differently. There are people who have healthy relationship dynamics, and people who are teaching their children that there is abundance in the world and they don't have to work hard for money, and they're just all these positive things. And so they're learning this and they're mimicking this in their life. And so when they're 14 to 21, they have the I am abundant. They have a personality that reflects what they were taught when they were younger. So they're probably not even working a 9 to 5. They're probably off to art school, or they're off making music or traveling the world and exploring, because That is what their parents told them that they could do. That is what they saw from their early influences. They were taught that anything that they desired, they could have. They might have even been taught the principles of manifestation and law of attraction. This is why Aristotle said, give me a boy until the age of 7 and I will show you the man. Because anything that you tell a child in this like formative stage is what they will begin to act out. They will form an identity and a personality around that. And once your subconscious locks something in as true, that is what you will experience. Because your subconscious is the key to your desired reality. Because unconsciously, you act out behaviors. You are sending signals out to the universe. Your emotions, your experiences, your past is all forming in your body. Your subconscious stores this in your body. That is why I said earlier, when you are in lack, your body starts like physically representing that. And when you're in this stage, that becomes permanent. So you may, like if you grew up in a traumatic household, you may still not be able to relax your muscles or relax your nervous system. Your nervous system is still sending out signals of lack. But if you grew up differently, your nervous system is sending out signals of abundance. This is why it feels like people who are wealthy or people who grew up with a different household or a healthy household, it seems like they have things all figured out or they have a good life. It is because they were taught that they deserved a good life. And so that is what they experience. It's not because, like, this is not your fault. You being tricked into poverty and you having this experience when you were younger is not your fault. Your current financial situation is not your fault. It is just a result of your subconscious programming. And I want you to know that you can rewire this. You can begin to experience wealth, just like people who grew up like learning that they are worthy of it and that there is no lack and they don't have to suffer. You can have the same reality. But what we do is when we see someone who grew up differently, when we see someone who had a healthy environment and a healthy structure and they were taught how to be abundant, we look at them as different from us. We say, oh, that must be nice, or oh, you're so lucky, I wish I was you. We start comparing ourselves to them without realizing that we are them. We are all interconnected. Anything that anybody else can do, you can do the same. We are not different. We're not divided by race. We're not divided by religion. We're not divided by anything because everything is energy. And we are all energy. We all come from the same consciousness expressed in individual ways. So when you see another person and they have this abundant life and they have this, all the things that you want, look at it as a parallel reality to you. Look at it as something that you can accomplish instead of comparing yourself or maybe even judging yourself for not having the same upbringing as them. Because although people do grow up in healthy dynamics, they still also have their own traumas that they have to experience. This is just part of the human experience. This is Earth School. So you have to go through certain things in order to gain lessons. So I don't want you to think that this is bad in any way. It's just the way that you were programmed. And once you learn that you were programmed, you were tricked into poverty, and society is upholding these standards, and that there's so many illusions in the world, you can begin to work on that. This is all a journey. This video is so long, but I have so much to say about this because I genuinely want people to experience wealth. I want you to have the life that you deserve. I want you to realize that anything and everything is possible. I want you to express yourself. I genuinely, like, my hope and my vision for this world is that we come to a state of peace. We understand that nobody is separate from us and that we can create the lives that we want. You were just taught to create a life that is not yours. This life, the I am, who you think you are, the identity that you formed, is not who you really are. It's just who you were programmed to be. And so now I'm going to give you all of the ways that you can reprogram yourself. Starting off with number one, which is repetition. So I want you to think about what type of life you want to have. What habits do you want to have? What type of person do you want to become? And I want you to write all of this down. Seriously, think about it. Think about, because past, present, and future are all existing at the same time. So there is also a parallel reality where you are experiencing a whole different life. And so I want you to tap into that. I want you to tune in to your higher self. Ask yourself, what do I really want? If there were no limitations, if I could have any amount of money, what would I wish to have? How much would you be making? What career would you have? What hobbies would you have? Just think about all of the dynamics that make up your life and think about what you want your life to look like. And then I want you to start practicing that. When you were a kid, like I just told you in the model, you had to constantly be taught these things. So from the time you were born to age 7, that is when you are learning, you are absorbing, and then from ages 7 to 14, you're modeling. So you're practicing this behavior because it's all you know how to do. So now I want you to practice different behavior, even if it's just one slight shift. You don't have to make this drastic. So step 1 is write down what you want to experience, what type of person you want to become, and since we're speaking about money, how much money would you like to have? What would your life look like if you had that much money? And would you be in a different career? Would you be expressing your gifts and your talents? What would you be doing? And then in order to practice that, you're gonna take one thing that would be aligned to the amount of money that you would want to make. So for example, let's say you wanna make $10,000 a month. That is your goal. You're going to take one thing that you can start doing to get into alignment with that. Let's say in order to make $10,000 a month, you want to start rewiring your belief systems. You want to get out of this lack poverty mindset in order to make $10,000 a month. You want to manifest this. You already know the type of person that you would be, the type of lifestyle you would have if you had this $10,000. So in order to get to that, you understand that you have to shift your perspective. So think about what you currently believe about money. Do you believe that it's hard to come by? Are you making like $1,000 per month? Are you working a 9-to-5 that you hate? Are you doing something that you don't like? And so I want you to take that, observe what story you're telling about money, what you currently believe about money, and you're going to start to shift that narrative. So let's say your predominant thought is, I don't have enough. And so in order to get to that $10,000, it's not gonna be like a straight, on the straight and narrow. You're gonna start with that one simple shift of just identifying one belief that you have about money and shifting it to a different belief, which is there is always enough. I am taken care of and provided for. Money comes to me easily and effortlessly. And so this is where you practice. This is where you start to repetitively tell yourself that until you actually start to feel it. Feeling is the key. Your subconscious mind works off of repetition and feeling. So if you can really tap into the feeling of having enough, tapping into the feeling of being abundant, that is sending out even stronger signals than your thoughts. Your beliefs are powerful, but your feelings are 10 times more powerful. That is sending out energy into the universe, and that is placing your order. You're telling the universe what you want, and you have to do this through consistency. I'm gonna make another video about consistency and discipline because I think that is what we are lacking in our society today, but that is one small shift that you can take in order to reprogram your mind. And I want you to understand, and I'm reading a paper, so that's why I'm looking down. I want you to understand that this takes time. You're not going to, however long or however old you are, however long you've been alive, that is how long you've been programmed. You cannot expect to rewire years and years and years of conditioning in one day. It starts with tiny, small shifts. You can also start doing EDMR therapy or hypnosis. I don't recommend talk therapy because that's just working with the conscious mind. EDMR therapy really gets into the traumatic experiences that you've had when you were younger, and hypnosis is directly accessing your subconscious mind. So you might want to look up areas around you and see if EDMR therapy or hypnosis would be an option for you, because then you can work with a professional to actually physically rewire your subconscious. This is something that I want to do. I haven't done it yet. I'll let you guys know when I do, but I think that this is a great way and a easier, faster way to get to the subconscious. And if you can't do that, another way is also journaling. So you are talking to yourself. You are developing a better relationship with yourself when you start journaling. You are able to just take your stream of consciousness and write it down. You're able to actually dig into the experiences that you had when you were younger. I've had so many revelations from journaling. I've been doing it for years now. I have like 5 or 6 journals that I've already filled up, and this is why I'm so self-aware. This is why I know the patterns that I have. Self-awareness is the very first step. So if you don't do anything, start journaling, because this is going to lead you towards self-awareness. You can actually start digging into all the patterns you have and the experiences that you had when you were younger. You can start doing shadow work, which I will also make another video on, because I'm already talking too much in this video. It's probably like an hour long now. But the very last way is that you can reprogram your mind when you sleep. It's that easy, because when you are going to sleep, your subconscious mind is taking a nap, it's going to bed, it's laying to rest, and that is when your subconscious mind is active. Your subconscious mind never sleeps because it controls your bodily functions. So in order for you to be breathing and your heart to be pumping, your subconscious mind needs to be active. So what you can do is, before you go to sleep, you can start visualizing the reality or the amount of money that you want to make, and keep replaying this visualization on a loop every single night. Like, just keep visualizing as you're drifting off to sleep. And then while you are sleeping, you can also play affirmations. I don't like playing subliminals because you don't really know what's being played. Like, I don't know how effective they are. I've never done them, but I like affirmations. I listen to Jessica Heslop. She's on YouTube. I will link her down in the description, but she has really, really good affirmations that you can play when you are sleeping. And then also right when you wake up, you can say an affirmation, or you can repeat affirmations. Before you go to sleep and right when you wake up are the best times to reprogram your subconscious mind and to start visualizing. That is another way that you can reprogram your subconscious mind, because this is when your conscious mind is just waking up. So if you constantly feed your conscious mind or your subconscious mind with thoughts, you're planting a seed. Each time you work on rewiring your subconscious mind, you are planting seeds that are destined to sprout. When you plant a seed, you're not digging it up, checking if it's there. You're not doing all that, because then the plant would never grow. You're just planting the seed and watering it, and you water it through repetition. And so I hope this video helped you guys. I hope that you got all the information that you needed, and I hope you understand how you were programmed. You were tricked. So I want you to undo that shit. I want you to actually take yourself seriously this year. I want you to start putting in the work. The thing that you are avoiding is the thing that you need to do. The result and the progress is in the work that you're avoiding. So instead of doing something that is not going to serve you, why not work on reprogramming your mind? Why not work on something that is going to lead you towards long-term results in the future? Let me know down in the comments what you thought about this video, maybe some experiences that you've had or things that you resonated with. Feel free to copy and paste your notes down in the comments so that other people can learn. I also want to let you guys know that I have free resources linked down in the description pertaining to this specific topic. So if you want to dive deeper, or if you want to get started on your journey, check out those free resources. And I also have a Millionaire Mindset Masterclass waitlist. I'm so excited for this. I cannot wait for you guys to absorb all of the material that I have put into this course. It's going to be about obtaining the mindset of a millionaire and embodying a millionaire, so that you can achieve financial freedom without the struggle and without the hard work. or societal expectations. And if you like this video, make sure to leave me a thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this, and I will see you guys next week.